Hello wonderful people, it's Mo here, and in this video I'll go over 10 tips to ensure you have a successful game jam. A couple of days from now I'll be participating in the next Ludum Dare game jam. This will be my 6th game jam. Ludum Dare is one of the biggest game jams out there and takes place twice every year in April and October. Last jam there were almost 5,000 submissions. It's one of the first game jams I participated in and will again participate in the future. Ludum Dare 47 is just a few days away, and I encourage you to join and give it a go. There are 2 versions of Ludum Dare. You can either participate in the compo or the jam. The compo is the harder version of the 2, where you have to make the game totally from scratch. You have to make all the art, music, gameplay mechanics all by yourself with no external help. And you have to make all your source code available to the public too. You can use any game engine of your choice however, but you have to submit your game within 48 hours. The jam is much more easier. You can use third-party assets for your games as long as you have the permission to use them. You can work as part of the team, and you have an extra day to submit your game. Like most game jams, there's a central theme which you have the option to incorporate in your game, or you can just ignore it. There's loads of game jams happening every day, so why Ludum Dare? Ludum Dare has a really good method of rewarding constructive feedback. They have what is called karma. Every time you rate and leave constructive feedback on a game, your karma increases, and as a result, the game that you made in the game jam gets more visibility, and more people will view your game, and more people will most likely play your game as a result. This means the more games you play, rate and leave positive feedback on, more gamers will play your game and leave feedback regarding your game. If you know another game jam that has a similar or even a better feedback reward algorithm or mechanism, please leave it in the comments below for everyone. There are plenty of YouTube videos on general tips and tricks for game jams, but in this video I'll draw on my past experience with the Ludum Dare game jam and give you some personal tips from my perspective on how to have a successful Ludum Dare. I'd like to stress the fact that these are only tips or suggestions. This is not a 100% perfect solution to ace Ludum Dare. When I join a game jam, my main aim is always to finish a game to a satisfactory level. You may have different goals for this jam. Maybe you want to practice using a different game engine, or practice making a different genre of game. That's okay too. Hopefully there will be a few tips for you too. My first Ludum Dare entry was a game called Caves of Mimicry back in April 2018. The theme was combine 2 incompatible genres, which was a total mind of a theme for me, and I consider myself to be quite good at coming up with ideas. My idea was of a platformer with match 3 mechanics. Needless to say, I managed to finish the game, and the game was not that good. It was buggy, the match 3 mechanics didn't work properly, the platforming was a bit iffy. You can try the game out for yourself, the link is in the description. This brings me to my first tip, which is probably the most overlooked one. Be prepared or be brave enough to ignore the theme completely. Maybe you cannot think of any game mechanics related to the theme like me, or perhaps you have an idea relating to the theme, but you or your team lack the skill set to begin making such a game. Getting ideas down is key in a jam, and if you have to ignore the theme as a result, so be it. You can also choose not to be rated on the theme as well. For this theme, I had many ideas, but it was difficult to combine two genres with my programming knowledge. At the time, I was fairly new to programming, and Unity was the only experience I had with programming. This leads to my second point. Stick to what you know best. Once you've settled with a game idea, you have to think and ask yourself, how will I make this? And can I make this? If you have a particular skill, use that skill and show it off. If you have a skill, this is the best situation to show it to thousands of people. If you're an artist, concentrate on the art of the game and pay less attention to the complex game mechanics or music. If you're a musician or good at making music, make a game that's heavily reliant on music, like a simple rhythm game. If you're good at writing stories, make a novel-based game such as a text adventure or a visual novel. If you're a web designer, you may fancy making a game entirely in CSS. If you're relatively new to game development, it's important to keep things simple. I believe this applies to most people anyway, given that the length of the jam, including most experienced game devs. Concentrate on one game mechanic, maybe 3 max, and make them as polished as you can. Remember, you have between 48 to 72 hours to make a game to a satisfactory level. If you're absolutely new to game development with no prior experience of using any game engine, you may want to take inspiration from classic games like Pong, Snake, Breakout for example. I'll leave you a helpful video link down below to help you get started in this case. For Ludum Dare 42 in August, I made a game called Bunny Bazooka. It's a sort of run-and-gun game where you circumnavigate several small planets, being a bunny with a bazooka with unlimited missiles. On paper, this was a great idea. I managed to make the game and submit it before the deadline without a lot of bugs. The only problem I had is that I submitted the game without any playtesting whatsoever. The only playtesting was by myself. The post-jam version of the game was almost a totally different experience. From the comments on the Ludum Dare page, I found that the controls were not intuitive. I had to make the camera follow the player, the sound was too loud. There was a lot of bugs that I was not aware of. Playtesting takes a lot of time, and looking back at my experience, I would allocate a good portion of time playtesting in this upcoming Ludum Dare. This will definitely help get rid of bugs and annoyances that are in the game which you are just unaware of. I use many game dev discords and the subreddit Play My Game for playtesting usually. Of course, you can rely on the Ludum Dare community to give you feedback post-jam, so do not worry too much if you have very little time to playtest, but early playtesting helps polish up your game significantly. If you put my LD43 entry House and Destroy and the 42 entry Burning Bazooka side by side, you'll notice that there's some similarity. In actual fact, I used the same circle physics code in both games. This was a huge time saver, and should the opportunity arise, I encourage you to do the same. Reusing code is a great time saver. I intentionally made House and Destroy a game with awful humour riddled with multiple cringeworthy dad jokes.
Have you met my mate Uranus? Mess with him and
It was worth it at the end, as I got into the top 100 score for the humour category. My Ludum Dare 44 entry, Mind Over Matter, tackles mental health issues by making them into a game mechanic. It does not have much music, but heavily relies on ambient sounds. There isn't much of a backstory, which creates a sense of mystery. I got a top 100 score for mood in this case. Now in most cases it may be hard to create both a moody game that's humorous, however from the examples I've shown, focusing on humour and mood tends to be really good in terms of increasing the score for each of those categories. Now this is the most specific Ludum Dare tip out of the rest, and it only specifically relates to getting a high score in the humour and or mood categories. If you are able to make a HTML game, chances are that you'll receive loads of ratings and loads of generic comments. But it's important to know that the quality of feedback is more important than the quantity of feedback. Once you upload your game to the Ludum Dare page, it's worth considering creating a Google form specifically for feedback, which contains specific questions relating to your game. When I first started participating in Ludum Dare, I did not know that at the end of the 48 hours or 72 hours for the jam, you had an extra hour to submit your game. So do what you can in the time limit to make the best game possible. If you aim for the compo and think that your game needs more time, submit it for the jam instead and make good use of that extra day. Do not push yourself too hard to release a game for a compo. If you need more time to finish the game, the chances are that the game is quite buggy at the moment. There you go, that's 10 tips for the upcoming Ludum Dare Game Jam. I'd like to stress that these are guidance from my personal experience participating in the Game Jam, and you don't need to follow all of them. But there is one tip that's the most important out of all of them, and I saved the best one for the last. For every Game Jam, it's very important to have fun. We can all agree that game development is awesome and fun. So do whatever it takes to increase the fun factor. Eat well, sleep well, avoid all-nighters, drink plenty of water, take care of yourself, both mentally and physically. Join a team as part of a jam if you feel lonely. There is no point finishing a game if you didn't have fun making it, so make sure you do. I am working on a commercial game called Super Heart Ninjas, which actually originated from my last Ludum Dare entry. I had so much positive feedback from it that I wanted to continue expanding the game. If you want to know how I've been getting along, Link would be in the description. Like always, thanks for watching. If you like content like this, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in Ludum Dare 47 on October the 4th.